All right, it's a beautiful Thursday morning right here in the city of Lagos where we are broadcasting from this amazing morning. My name is David Edwin and it's a beautiful time out. We bid you welcome this morning on VOP this morning. And well, I'm not alone this amazing morning. I got the very amazing Finna with us. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, David. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigeria. I'm Fina Chuku, and it's VOP this morning.
All right. So where are we going this morning? So first off, it rained early hours of this morning in some part of Lagos.
That rain is in Pasha, David. You know, reach my side.
Oh wow.
You know, reach where I did. It's in Pasha. Like the rain, I've actually decided that this season is like I'm going to fall in some parts and not fall in some parts. I was surprised until I get like, what's happening? It rained, and they say, yeah, it does. It rained yesterday night, but in my area it was very dry.
Wow.
That's climate change, right? Sure, we'll call them climate change.
But you had a bit of the weather and the wind.
No weather, everything is hot. No say weather kini. There's no weather anything.
All right, let's get to it almost immediately. It's a beautiful morning, just like we said, and it's not going to be any different, but we're going to show you that we will be serving you breakfast, literally information, the best way we can this morning on VOP this morning, and we definitely would urge you to stay with us all through this session, and let's have a bit of all of the information that you need served by us this morning.
Yes, so our federal government intercept 141 grain trucks being smuggled out of the country as drivers threaten strike over attacks and looting of food items.
And President Tinubu signs executive order on all gas reforms. Now, this would be our major conversation this morning. But before we get into the discussion, do well to subscribe if you have not already subscribed to our YouTube page, and of course click on that like button so you can get intense notification whenever we are live on the air. Now on YouTube we are at Voice of the People TV, and on all the social media platforms we are at VOP TV Live. First off, we'll be heading into what the front pages are saying this morning, and well, we definitely best know that we would be doing this with, well, if we have him coming before time, a guest analyst this morning. But of course, we would wait until our producers tell us that we are very ready with our analyst. But then, before then, we possibly will take a very, very quick break. When we return, the newspaper review will be up next. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. Like we promised earlier, we're going to be diving into what the papers are saying this morning. And of course, the national dailies, the front pages of the national dailies, that's what we'll be diving into just about now. Fina, you want to help us with a particular paper? So we'll just get into it.
I have the Punch newspaper before me. And on the Punch newspaper, beneath the nameplate, the banner headline says 24 states can't pay salaries without FG allocation. And this is actually coming after the budget. The rider, 24 states to pay 1.48 trillion naira salaries in 2024, but generates 914 billion naira in their IGR. Governor's advice to boost IGR. Ondo, Yobe, Sokoto, Plateau, Niger, Nasarawa, Adamawa, Cross River, Delta, Abia, others affected. Above the nameplates, the story says 30 killed in Benue, fresh attack. Senate to meet Tinubu. You can get that on the Punch newspaper. Blackouts, FG threatens to revoke discourse licenses. CBN printing of 22 trillion naira under Buhari fueled inflation. And this is coming from Wale Edun. And there's a pictorial, a major pictorial, where we have additional wins Awolowo Prize, says low productivity cost. Africa, $2.6 trillion yearly. There, another story that made the headlines. Minimum wage, labor slashes demand to 500,000 naira. Troops combo bushes. Okay, I beg your pardon, I'll take that again. Troops come bushes for 101 abducted women. IDP home burns. FG foreign scholarship beneficiaries lament unpaid 8 months stipend. And this can actually be seen on the page 12 of the Punch newspaper. David, when I read that of the minimum wage, you were like, what's happening?
It's quite interesting, right? Because we just saw the fact that labor is presently reducing her demand by 500,000 naira. Now that's quite interesting because we understand that before now they were asking for a million.
Yeah.
But one would want to say, what would have or ask what would have cost labor to want to reduce their demand to 500,000?
No, I think maybe they're looking at the feasibility of this coming to play and all that, because there's no way. Okay, for example, how much does Nigerians have to start with? Nigeria as a country, how much do we make every year? That's the first question. Then you come back again to some states that even their allocation actually will not even be, will not be, able to carry them out and all that. Now you find out that the way things are going, even 500,000. David, don't forget that some states were not able to pay the 30,000 minimum wage.
Even the wage award.
Even the wage award. Now I'm talking about 500,000 naira to be. Is it okay? I'm not trying to actually, be or sound negative in this particular thing, but I want to sound negative. But all the same, let's look at this. The fact that we don't really think is going to come into fruition. Yes.
You think so?
500,000 naira to be paid, where people or some states couldn't pay 30,000. But actually, it's not really bad demand, given the fact that a lot of things in the country actually we're having so many things. Inflation actually have plunged the economy into a different direction entirely. So asking for an increase on minimum wage is not a bad idea.
Definitely, which is the reason why there is the committee, the tripartite committee, to look into it, right?
The rep is saying something about making it 100,000.
Now, the question one we want to ask is, what's the reality on ground?
That is the thing.
Does the reality of what our economy is saying warrant states to be able to pay 500,000 every other month?
Now, look, they say
workers.
Here they say 24 states can't pay salaries without FG allocations. How much is the FG allocation? Is it increasing? David?
Oh, yes,
Have you had the percentage is increasing?
Yes.
To what percentage?
Since the petrol subsidy reform, there's been an increase in what the states get. But is that sustainable to pay this amount of money that labor is asking for? Well, it's about reality. But the one that really particularly gets me is the statement from the AFDB boss. I'm talking about Adesina, who wins the Awolowo Prize. He says low productivity cost Africa $2.6 trillion. And then one begins to wonder, $2.6 trillion. I dare say the European world will be shocked if this kind of figures is being plunged into economy in Africa. And it's quite disturbing.
Now, David. Now, looking at this particular one you just made mention of, I'm talking about the winning of the prize and the 6.2 trillion dollars. You know, and now when you look at it, you found out that even African states, I mean the ECA, you know, they are actually complaining that Africans don't even patronize themselves, and it's actually telling on them. You know, it's telling on the productivity in the continent, and then we want to ask, what is actually the problem? What are we having as a challenge? You know, because if, for example, they say we actually need to work, we have the African Union, and then after the African, we have other sub-regions having their own bloc. And then we find out that they don't really support themselves, in quote, according to what ECA says, you know. And then this is actually costing them a lot of money. A lot of people are importing things from the Western world. You go to China, most Africans, our African countries, are actually helping to boost their economy through importation. Now, what is really happening?
Okay, another thing that comes to mind is the leadership of African countries really ready to plunge or make her economy viable for business? There is the issue of insecurity.
Exactly.
There is the issue of
epileptic power supply to look at, poor infrastructure.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
So if the leadership of African countries at this point would tell themselves, we need to do better, this amount of money, $2.6 trillion, that's... Anyways, let's get to another paper this morning. We're going to just dive into the Guardian newspaper, where the banner headline here reads, "Debts unaccountable security votes may hobble state police plan." Debts unaccountable security votes may hobble state police plan. And that's an interesting one there. There's also a major pictorial there of all of the governors in the country, in the states surrounding the entire, of course, the country. And of course, the Senate President, the House of Rep Chair, and also the IGP and the President is found in that pictorial. It's quite beautiful to see anyways.
Yeah.
All right, by that particular pictorial, just close to it there, you find another headline that reads, Boko Haram strikes again, raises several homes in Borno. Also, you find the MPA to consolidate 2023 performance, reconstruct Tinkan ports. Okay. Students lament unpaid scholarship, seek Tinubu's intervention. Student laments unpaid scholarship, seek Tinubu's intervention. Okay, beneath that particular major pictorial there, at the front page of the Guardian newspaper, I beg your pardon, Nigeria, there's another headline that reads, "Nigeria's survival depends on food, health, housing agenda across states." Now, this is also coming from Mr. Adesina, who was awarded yesterday. You find that pictorial there as well, beneath that headline, where he said, Nigeria's survival depends on food, health, housing agenda across states. Well, you really want to read up on that and know what that particular headline states. Also, you find just beneath that, by the side of that picture as well, appeal court strikes out federal government's bid to retry OG Kalu on alleged 7.6 billion naira fraud. Another headline you find there is 37-year-old Nigerian lawyer turned caregiver dies in the UK. And then the final headline here reads, Edo Assembly begins impeachment process against Shuaib. Okay, those are the headlines right there inside on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Now, the one that, caught my fancy that I saw yesterday was a headline of the Edo Assembly wanting to impeach Shuaib. It's quite interesting. I thought before now the feud between the governor and the deputy governor was over. I'm surprised that there are still some underlined, well, maybe my thoughts now, there are still some underlined rancor that are yet to be solved.
You know, if you get to this time that Edo State is planning to have their, gubernatorial elections,
Yeah.
you find out that so many stories are coming up, not just between Obaseki and Shuaibu, even in other political parties.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, yes, they're having so many fracas, and people. I want to ask: is it that the party now don't really think or see the interest of the people at heart when they want to conduct their primaries, or is it that an individual now is coming to be too big for the party actually to control?
You first ask, what is the interest of the people?
Of the people.
You just made mention of the fact that if you're wondering if the party has the interest of the people at heart, but the question would be, the party is made up of people.
Okay.
What is so they had primaries.
They do.
And the primaries...
And they have INEC official, during the time they were doing their primaries.
Yeah.
And then one will want to ask, why is it that they have actually concluded the primaries, and then we have someone that say, this is who we have as the winner of this primary election. And then someone else will come. For example, you saw what happened where Shuaibu went to Abuja to say, give me the certificate of return. You understand? Saying it like it's his mandate, and you want to... What is really happening?
Well, again, one gets to ask questions like, how did they get to this point? There was a primary election in the party that brought up the flag bearer in person of Ighodalo. Then, of course, INEC did what was needful, giving the certificate to Ighodalo. Now, if Shuaib have any issues, I think it's an internal thing.
Yeah, they have it, not just them. You could remember that even in Imo State, during their primaries, I'm talking about the Labour Party then in Imo State, it was like they had like 4 primary election stations.
Yeah.
And then you have 4 people coming up from different, primary elections, but they were able to sort that out, although they weren't paying that attention, because I believe if they had actually come together to say, okay, this is what we needed to do, and then put their house together, they'll be able to produce someone that can stand the person that went out for I'm talking about now the people that are contested in other political parties for that seat. But now, David, looking at this other story that says 101 IDP women in Borno State being abducted again. Now, I've been asking myself a question since yesterday I saw that story, and this morning again there was another attack in Benue State. We've not been hearing issues of insecurity, abduction, and all that for some time. It was like the headlines actually breathed a little, for some time, but it's coming up back to back now.
No. So when you say the headlines haven't been agog of headlines of insecurity, that's quite relative. If you are referring to insecurity, particularly when it concerns terrorism.
We're talking about the terrorism thing,
but you cannot
adoption.
say there's not been adoption happening in several states.
They've not really been putting it out. For example, we've had like a week or 2 weeks. No, wait. You know what I'm asking?
What papers have you been reading?
You know what I'm asking? There's no listeners of the truth. Now, I've been asking because we found out that the federal government actually are pushing a lot of money into getting we have so many weapons or so many, what's it called? Yes, I'll call them weapons that the government actually puts or pull down to Nigeria now to help us combat the issue of insecurity in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But what is really happening? Because every time, we keep on hearing people are being abducted. Is it that they're not really...
the part that, sometimes really get me wondering is where one would ask a major question. Is it that our military apparatus has been infiltrated by some wrong fellows or snitches or allies of this terrorist? That's on one part. 2, is it that the military also is overstressed at this point? Now, if these issues are really, really, looked into, then one we want to ask again, how then can we curb it? How then can we manage it and start getting it right? Because let's face it, 117 Nigerians. That's the part that I really want us to really get into. 117 Nigerians were carted away like goods by terrorists and around an IDP area. So what happens to the security around that area?
Exactly. Now, people are also, there's an undertone.
It's so much disturbing that, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's quite disturbing.
There's also an undertone that the government actually shouldn't have reintroduced or recuperate the people who the term
repented.
Exactly. The repented terrorists or insurgent group members back to the society.
I honestly feel, in my honest opinion, personally, I felt they would have used these guys as intelligence to nip to the mud.
Do you think it will
to nip to the mud? Come on, it should, because look, we constantly keep comparing ourselves to America, Britain, France, and how their economy is growing and how they're developing by the day. These things are what these guys do. I mean, one time or the other, we've seen and heard where they capture major names. I mean, there are several intelligence units in the US, for instance, where they go as deep as using whoever had been caught to get into the case or wherever as an intel to just make this whole situation. I mean,
but you know for them actually to be able to achieve that, they first of all know the ideology of the people who are carrying out the attack or one or two crimes that the person must have indulged in. Now, can you work on someone whose ideology says this, and this is the reason I'm championing this particular fight? Can you work? Can that person?
I can work on him.
Actually.
Oh God!
All right.
I don't think you've ever seen where they torture some criminals.
And then you think the person will just take out that ideology and bring a new word.
You don't pray to see torture.
Let's move over to another daily. I have the Daily Trust. And the banner headline says, UN confirms over 200 women IDPs abducted in Borno. UN confirms over 200 women IDPs abducted in Borno. Even the IDP camps too now. It's not that.
Yeah, that's where they ram these people from.
The writer says families ask FG and National Assembly to rescue loved ones. The terrorists burn IDP houses at Dikwa. Above beneath the nameplate, hardship rep seeks 100,000 minimum wage for workers. Jigawa Assembly impeaches 2 principal officers, suspends 4 local government chairs. Buhari's 8 years of printing money without productivity caused inflation, and this is coming from Wala Aiden. Okay, there's a pictorial, and beneath that, if we check the picture, you just see, I think, rams with swollen belly or something like that. Okay, we have beneath that, over 40 killed as militia groups clash in Benue. Food looting, police, Neymar tightens security at warehouses. You can get that on page 6 of the Daily Trust. Herders, 50 cows, sheep killed in Plateau attack. NPA grew revenue to 501 billion naira in 2023. I'll take that again. NPA grew revenue to 501 billion naira in 2023.
Okay. It's quite alarming, really. Farmers, herders, clashes. We see here herders, 50 cows, sheep killed in fresh Plateau attacks. Now, I just said it some few minutes ago. So what happens to the security operatives in that local government area? I mean, we know that there would have been calls made as regarding whatever attack or whatever fight might have brewed up in that locality. Herders and 50 cows. If I'm a businessman, I know what 50 cows mean. Okay.
Now, if also you're a farmer,
and
then you have a large expanse of land, you've cultivated everything you think you need for you to make ends meet for the year there, and then the herders move in there with their cattle to go and feed on those things. How much will you still lose? I think the government need to look deep into this. We've been talking about the getting ranches and localities and stop the culture of moving around with cattle and all that. Yeah, because if you actually look into it, government, this has been causing a very big root for now, even in Ibadan State and Plateau State, and in so many other places, we're having herders and farmers clashes and all that, is taking live and all that. So government need to look so deep into this, pass out the laws, the anti-grazing laws and all that, so that we'll know where we're going to.
All right, well, with that, we'll come to the end. We've come to the end of the newspaper review. Fina, can you maybe just help us with that?
Okay, up next on VOP this morning, we'll be looking at federal government intercepting 141 smuggled grain trucks as drivers threaten strike over attacks. And we won't be talking this alone, because we'll have joining us Dr. Ganiu Olushola, FCTI Managing Partner, KJB Professional Services. He'll be the one on the studio with us today to look into this. Don't go anywhere. After this quick break, we'll be moving straight down to the topic.